That's unreal. Like it's carved.
Do you feel like time is speeding up somehow? When the sky suddenly changes its tune and the earth can't hold its quiet anymore? All around, strange events are piling up fast, pushing the world into chaos and planting worry about a foggy tomorrow. Those old prophecies about roaring seas, shaking skies, and panicked hearts seem to be coming true right before our eyes. From huge waves crashing the shores, weird lights ripping through the night, clouds twisting into odd shapes, rings of fire spinning, trumpet-like sounds echoing, eyes appearing up high, beams of light curling around, chilling noises, the sky turning blood red or shrinking into strange blue hues. Every sign is waking up at once. Can you really believe this is all just coincidence? Or do you sense an invisible hand pushing things along? Don't scroll past too quick, because each odd sign is like an urgent reminder straight to your conscience. Leave a simple prayer for peace. Before the story unfolds, more things nobody can predict. And now, so you don't have to wait long, we'll get started right away with 1. Unusually big waves strong enough to smash up the boats parked nearby. The Sea of Marmara wasn't its usual calm self anymore. All of a sudden, the water stood straight up like something ripped it open from underneath. Huge black waves came crashing straight into the shore with terrifying force. You didn't need anyone to tell you. Your heart just sank watching it, like nature had changed its mind and wasn't in the mood to be kind to people anymore. The sounds of wind, water, and metal banging together mixed into pure chaos that made the whole waterfront feel suffocating. Down at the Tuzla coast, a busy stretch of shoreline in Istanbul where hundreds of boats usually sit tied up just fine, everything got turned upside down in seconds. The Lodo's wind, already strong, shot up to around 60 miles an hour, howling without stopping. Waves reaching 15 feet kept rising one after another, slamming right into the seawall and the docks, tossing the little speedboats around like toys being thrown every which way. Seawater flooded over the walkways, swallowing the roads, sweeping away crates, mooring lines, and broken pieces of wood. People along the shore ran in panic, their shouts getting lost in the wind and the loud crashes of the waves. Awnings got ripped apart, boat hulls tilted wildly, and in just a few minutes, the whole area felt like it had been hit by sudden fury. That feeling of nature being out of control spread fast, leaving a quiet fear that hadn't settled yet. Right in the middle of all that, an old warning seemed to come alive again. Luke 21:25 says it plain. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Those words weren't just sitting on a page anymore. They were happening right there, with every roaring wave out in the water. A lot of folks tried to calm themselves by saying it was just an odd storm, the kind of thing we get now from climate change. But when you look at all these strange events piling up in different places, that explanation starts feeling pretty thin. Science can explain air pressure and wind, but it doesn't say why everything's hitting at once with such strength, like something bigger is being pushed along. Revelation 16:3 talks about a sight that makes anybody stop cold. The second angel poured out his bowl on the sea, and it turned into blood like that of a dead person. And every living thing in the sea died. Things haven't gotten that far yet, but the ocean's anger today feels like the first signal that the usual order is getting shaken. Those waves in Tuzla didn't just cause physical damage, they left people with a deep sense of being warned. The sea is speaking up, and the message doesn't feel random. But that's only the beginning, because even before the water had a chance to calm down, the night sky was getting ready to light up with something unusual that still needs to be told. 2. The night sky suddenly lit up with a mysterious blue glow as a ball of light streaked across it. Just as the darkness settled in, a bright blue streak ripped through the night, so fast that all the sounds around seemed to vanish. In just a few seconds, the sky changed color. A cold light poured down, and everything felt frozen. It was like watching a video that makes your hands shake a little, because what you saw was too strange to process right away. In the middle of a busy city, where streetlights usually drown out the stars, dozens of phones shot up at once. This blue ball of light, raced across the sky, leaving behind a long, glowing trail that stretched for miles, then disappeared as quickly as it came. You didn't need anyone to tell you. Your heart was pounding, because it wasn't like fireworks or anything familiar you'd seen before. The blue light didn't flicker on and off. It spread like a wave, covering rooftops, windows, and the streets below. Some videos showed the ball moving at a speed that's hard to track, suddenly changing direction and vanishing, leaving a heavy silence behind. People slowed the footage, zoomed in, and shared it non-stop, but the closer you looked, the fuzzier the details got, as if the light didn't want to be figured out. In that stunned moment, people started whispering ideas. Some called it a rare green meteor. Others thought it might be a test flight of some kind. But a few believers felt that brief flash had the feel of an angel passing overhead, quick, bright, and leaving no trace. When you put yourself in the shoes of someone watching on their screen, the question wasn't just, what was that? But why did it show up right now? Matthew 24-27 puts it in a haunting way. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. That blue flash, gone in an instant, and nobody daring to name it, felt like the kind of sign that gets your attention, short but impossible to ignore, on a quiet night sky. Skeptics were quick to say drone or some man-made light show, but the cold color and the way it spread didn't match any common gadget. Videos from different angles all showed the same thing, the same streak, like the sky was putting on a silent message. That kind of matchup made the quick explanations feel weak. Revelation 8-5 talks about the start of something bigger. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it on the earth. And there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. That blue light didn't come with thunder, but it was enough to plant the feeling that a door had just cracked open. Nobody's ready to say for sure what that ball of light really was, but its appearance shattered the usual comfort of the night. When the blue glow faded, the sky went back to its old dark color, but the calm didn't return. Because right after, from the gray clouds quietly gathering, something else unusual seemed ready to show itself. 3. A strange cloud with angel wings. The midday sky suddenly slowed down, like time was holding its breath, waiting for something to appear. Sunlight fell on the high clouds, gentle but sharp, giving the whole scene a quiet peace you don't see often. Have you ever stood still under the sky and felt something there that's hard to explain? Over a big stretch of sky in Texas, thousands of people looked up at once as a huge shape started to form. It wasn't just some scattered clouds drifting by. It was an orderly shape, spreading out like two big wings open wide in the air. The iridescence caught the light and made shimmering streaks, so the cloud layers looked like overlapping feathers, stretching for miles. A lot of folks pulled over on the road, got out quietly, and just gazed up. The photos that spread afterward showed soft curves, perfect symmetry, light and shadow blending together, giving a feeling that's both familiar and otherworldly. Sure, we can explain it with atmospheric science, but the emotion that moment brought goes beyond dry facts. Psalm 91-4 says, "He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge." When you put those words next to the image of clouds spreading wide, many people feel it's a symbol of protection, quiet but all-encompassing, like a gentle reminder in the vast sky. But online, opinions quickly split. Some say it's just a rare mix of light and ice crystals up high, nothing more. Others push back, sharing comparisons, analyzing proportions, even quoting Bible verses to argue it's a sign of angel wings. Which side do you lean toward when faced with arguments like that? Revelation 14-6 tells of, "Then I saw another angel flying in midair, with the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people." It doesn't describe the shape in detail, but it suggests a messenger appearing in the sky, bringing a message for all humanity. Putting it all together, from the visual wonder to the inner feeling, many believe that presence wasn't meant to scare, but to wake us up. Those wings in the sky, whether cloud or symbol, still raise a question about what's coming and how ready we each are. And as the clouds slowly faded, the sunlight returned to normal. The sky seemed like it hadn't quite finished saying what it wanted. Far off, another glow was starting to form, as if the story up there wasn't over yet. 4. A strange ring of fire in the sky. The gray sky suddenly tore open with a bright, perfectly round glow, sharp as a knife edge. No smoke rose up. No flames fell down. Just a red-orange ring of light spinning slowly among the heavy clouds, making everything feel frozen for a moment. The first feeling wasn't wonder. It was a jolt straight to the core. This sight appeared over wide areas of the sky, much like the ring-shaped solar eclipses recorded in Argentina or several states in the US. The ring stretched for miles across, hanging in the air with an edge so even it was hard to believe. From far away, it looked like a gateway opening, orderly yet fierce, defying any familiar name. Revelation 8-7 says, "The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up." When you set those words beside the image of a ring of fire up high, many folks sense a chilling link between the symbol and what's real, as if the fire has been lifted to the heavens before touching the ground. From reports, the ring didn't stay still, but turned slowly, its brightness shifting minute by minute. Witnesses described an eerie feeling. The light gave off no heat, cast no smoky shadows, yet it had real depth and clear motion. Would you call that moment a rare natural event, or a sign beyond what our eyes are used to seeing? Ezekiel 1-4 records. "I looked, and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal." The phrases "flashing lightning" and "brilliant light" paint a scene that's not purely physical, but like divine power revealing itself through the clouds. Of course, doubts came quickly. Some said it was just an optical illusion from a rare alignment of the sun, moon, and earth. Still, many wondered about the spinning motion and the unusually sharp edge, details that current explanations haven't fully settled. As the ring of fire faded away, the sky returned to its old gray, but the sense of warning lingered. Fire from the heavens, whether seen as symbol or something real, still carries a message of cleansing and judgment, drawing closer than ever. And just as the last light vanished, the horizon out at sea suddenly stirred, as if from deep below, a massive metallic sound was about to ring out. 5. A trumpet glowing in the sky. Down by the coast, against a heavy gray sky, a cloud suddenly started swirling and stretching out, forming a shape that looked exactly like a giant trumpet. The wide bell end was glowing bright, almost like it was pointing straight down at the churning ocean below. This happened along the shoreline, kind of like those vortex clouds that have shown up before in Houston. The swirling column rose hundreds of feet high, pulling water vapor up from the sea into the air, creating a perfect, almost scary spiral. The light reflecting inside made the whole thing look like it was lit up from within, standing out sharply against the dark sky around it. The cloud didn't move wildly like a regular tornado. Instead, it had a steady, repeating rhythm, almost like some kind of ritual was taking place. The water vapor rose in layers, spinning around the center, giving the feeling that an invisible sound was being drawn upward. When you see something like that, you have to wonder, is this just a rare weather event, or is it something with deeper meaning? Revelation 8-6 says, "The 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them." When people put that Bible verse next to the picture of this trumpet forming in the sky, a lot of folks start thinking about the sequence that was described so long ago, one where the sound isn't just noise, but a marker for things that can't be undone. Many Christians are warning that the first trumpet may have already sounded, not with actual noise, but with an image. From that point of view, a glowing trumpet in the sky doesn't need to make a sound to shake people up. It's enough to act as a signal that forces you to pay attention, whether you want to or not. Revelation 11:15 goes on to say, "The 7th angel sounded his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven which said, 'The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Messiah.'" In the Bible, the trumpets never happen by chance. Each one is tied to a shift in power and order. Of course, the scientific explanations came quick, people saying it's just a rare funnel cloud that happened to take an unusual shape. Even so, a lot of folks can't shake the feeling of how perfect it looked, how balanced the proportions were, and how on purpose the whole thing seemed. As the cloud slowly broke apart and the light faded, the sky went back to normal. But that sense of being warned stayed behind. If a trumpet has already appeared, Whatever it's announcing probably isn't over yet. And from behind the clouds that just closed up, it feels like an unseen gaze is still watching, quiet and unrelenting. 6. Judging eyes in the sky. The air stood still, like it was frozen solid, and in that moment, you could feel plain as day that something was watching from way up high, way far off, but close enough to give you chills. The light started gathering in the middle of the wide open sky, slow and heavy, not letting anyone look away or ignore it. In a public area, something like what's been recorded before in Alamogordo, the spots of light didn't scatter, but slowly connected into a clear shape. Out in the vast emptiness, two matching glows appeared side by side, forming a huge pair of eyes, hanging there like they didn't belong to this world. The crowd down below gradually went quiet, not from sudden fear, but from that feeling of being seen right through. Those eyes didn't move around wildly. The gaze was serious and steady, like it was checking every bit of space below. The edges glowed a deep red, like hot coals being fanned, while the centers shone bright and cold, never blinking, never shifting. People who saw it said that just looking up made their chest feel heavy, as if every private thought had nowhere left to hide. Psalm 11:4 was written a long time ago. The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord is on his throne in heaven. His eyes watch. His eyelids test the children of man. When you put those words next to the picture of eyes appearing in the open air, a lot of folks started seeing the event as more than just lights or an illusion. Reports say the shape lasted long enough for thousands of people to capture it, but not long enough for anyone to get used to that feeling of being examined. The light didn't spread out or flicker. It stayed at the same strength, like a gaze with real purpose. We usually think the sky is just empty and unaware, but that moment made that idea feel shaky. Revelation 1:14 describes, his head and hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like blazing fire. The image of eyes like fire isn't just about how they look, but a symbol of judgment, where no word or action can stay hidden. Some tried to explain it as light mixing with clouds and the angle of view, but the perfect symmetry and the shared feeling from the whole crowd made that explanation seem weak. No one heard any sound, but everyone knew it wasn't some harmless sight. As the eyes slowly faded and the sky went back to its usual empty look, that sense of being watched didn't go away. The gaze seemed to just close for a while, not leave. And as night started falling, another shape began to move, twisting slowly like a living rope, showing that the eerie feeling wasn't over yet. 7. A strange winding rope in the sky. Night falls over a quiet country road, with just a few scattered lights that can't quite chase away the hazy feeling in the air. In that still darkness, a bluish glow appears, not dropping or fading away, but hanging there like it's waiting to be noticed. You stand there and realize the sky doesn't feel like its usual silent backdrop anymore. Out on that rural road, similar to sightings reported near lakes or in Raleigh, the glow stretches for miles, twisting slowly like a living rope. It doesn't shoot across like a meteor, and it doesn't stay put like a signal light. Instead, it moves with a rhythm, coiling up at times and stretching out at others, giving a sense of drawn-out tension. The slow motion makes time seem stretched, forcing anyone watching to follow every second. That glowing rope twists in the air, its cool blue light spreading over the scene below. Each time it bends, the glow gets brighter, like invisible links sliding past each other. You can clearly see it moving on its own, not affected by wind or clouds, making familiar explanations feel awkward. Revelation 22:1-2 describes a symbolic scene. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil, and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. When you put this Bible passage next to the image of the winding rope, many folks can't help but think of those moving chains. On social media, arguments heat up fast. Some believe it's just a rare light phenomenon. Others say it's an experimental aircraft, but plenty insist the shape has a deeper symbolic meaning. What do you lean toward when you see something moving in a way that doesn't follow the usual rules of the sky? Genesis 3:1 recalls the ancient image. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. The similarity between the serpent and this glowing rope leads many to believe it's not just mindless light, but a sign of some unseen force stirring. Doubts that it was just streetlights reflecting get shot down quickly, since the rope moved independently, kept changing shape without repeating a path. Videos show it lasting long enough for several people to capture it, then vanishing like it was never there. When the sky goes back to being empty, that uneasy feeling lingers. The rope leaves no trace, but the meaning it suggests hasn't closed yet. And in the quiet that follows, another object starts hovering with a heavy sound, signaling that this string of events is still going on. 8. A strange object and weird sounds in the sky. Without any warning, the sky over the neighborhood suddenly changed color, like something had just been pulled up out of the dark night. Through the hazy smoke, a round object appeared, hanging still in the air before slowly turning, giving off a low, rumbling sound that made everything feel heavy and thick. You could almost feel the whole city hold its breath in that moment. The chaos spread fast as the strange noise echoed down through the rows of houses, carrying for miles, like those skyquakes that have been reported in places like California or Florida. The object gave off a dim glow, not blinding, but enough to outline a warped circle against the sky, moving slowly, like it was checking out the ground below. We watched people rush out to their balconies, stop their cars in the middle of the road, and stare up in quiet panic. The groaning sound went on, sometimes low, sometimes higher. Nothing like a plane engine or regular thunder. It pressed on your chest, making you feel trapped in some dark corner with no way out. You stand there and realize the fear isn't really from the shape of the thing, it's from that sound coming from somewhere deep and far away, beyond what we normally understand. Joel 2:1 rings out like a wake-up call. Blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy hill. Let all who live in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. It is close at hand. When you put those words next to the chaos unfolding, a lot of folks can't see it as just some random coincidence anymore. The object kept hovering, the sound getting more intense, making any plain technical explanations feel out of place. It wasn't a plane, wasn't some everyday gadget, because the frequency and rhythm of that groan didn't match anything familiar. We could feel the unease building, like the sky was cracking open layer by layer. Revelation 9:1 paints a chilling picture. The fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. Those words make many believe these sounds aren't just meant to scare. They're signals that big events are being unlocked. As the object faded away and the sound suddenly stopped, the silence left behind was even scarier than the noise. Nobody could be sure what had just happened, but that feeling of being watched still hung in the air. And right after, the sky started turning a deep, heavy red, like another door had just cracked open. 9. The night sky turned a deep blood red. The whole city seemed swallowed by a thick red haze as night fell, with familiar lights vanishing in just minutes. Up above, the sky lost its usual deep black and shifted to a heavy, clotted red, like thick blood. It was so overwhelming that many folks just stood there frozen, caught off guard by the sudden change in something so everyday. In places like Shanxi and Zhoushan, the red spread for dozens of miles, covering the horizon completely. It wasn't a sunset, and it wasn't city lights reflecting. It was this strange red that took over everything. The streets glowed with an eerie light. Buildings lost their sharp edges, turning into dark shapes against the red backdrop, making everything feel oppressive. That red hung around, not fading over time, and it stirred up a deep unease in every corner. People quietly recorded it on their phones in tense silence, and you could sense the fear creeping in as the sky, something we count on as steady and forever, suddenly felt alien. The red glow covered everything, like a silent warning. Many brought up Revelation 6:12 as the images spread. I watched as the Lamb broke the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. Those Bible words hit like a wake-up call, holding the world accountable for what it's done. On social media, debates flared up fast. Some said it came from fine dust, industrial light bouncing around, or weird weather conditions, while others figured science was just trying to explain something beyond our control. Arguments stayed pretty neutral, but the underlying worry was hard to hide. Joel 2:31 got quoted too, like a direct challenge. The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Seeing that verse next to pictures of the blood-red sky made folks realize the message wasn't some distant symbol anymore. It was hitting close to home. That red didn't just change the sky. It shook the sense of safety built up over generations. It lingered there, quiet but overpowering, like a reminder that the world isn't blameless for what's happening. This wasn't a vague warning anymore. It was facing the consequences head-on. As the red finally started to pull back, revealing odd patches of darkness, the heavy feeling didn't lift right away. And right then, a strange green tint quietly slipped into the distant clouds, hinting that the signs weren't over yet. 10. Mysterious blue light in the sky. The atmosphere opened up gently, cool and still like a windless night, when thick gray clouds drifted slowly overhead, and a strange blue glow suddenly flashed from deep inside them. The light didn't burst out or make any noise. It just quietly appeared, then pulled back in, as if listening to the breathing of the world. In that moment, did you feel your heart sink a little, seeing the sky no longer look familiar like it used to? This phenomenon has been reported in areas with heavy cloud cover, similar to sightings in Tulsa or Moscow, where the blue light spread through the dull gray sky. It wasn't a fixed streak. It moved quietly, flowing along the folds of the clouds before gathering in the center. The sky seemed to open up a deeper dimension, leaving observers feeling both drawn in and held back. Looking closer, this blue wasn't like the familiar northern lights, since it showed up at latitudes far from the poles and didn't have those long, wavy patterns. The glow came from right inside the clouds, as if the clouds themselves were lighting up, pulsing and closing again. Many witnesses described a chilling feeling, not pure fear, but from the overwhelming quiet of the moment. Ezekiel 1:13 once described a similar scene when talking about living beings and blazing fire. As for the appearance of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, like the appearance of torches moving to and fro among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. Those words don't explain it scientifically, but they offer a key to understanding that the strange light isn't just a phenomenon, it's a sign with deeper meaning. In that mysterious scene, Revelation 4-5 goes on to paint a picture of light tied to a holy presence. From the throne came flashes of lightning and rumblings and peals of thunder. The blue glow among the gray clouds is no longer just a mystery. It becomes a signal, a language of light for those quiet enough to notice. Some people doubt it, saying it's only city lights refracting or a rare atmospheric event. But those explanations still leave the biggest question unanswered. Why did the light appear at just the right time, in just the right way, and leave such a deep awakening in those who saw it? If earlier signs were loud and powerful, this blue glow feels like the final whisper. It doesn't force or threaten. It simply invites people to look up, reflect, and turn back to the true light. And maybe, in that quiet moment, each person knows deep down what to offer from their heart, like a silent prayer before the sky closes again. 10 signs have appeared one after another, not scattered or random, but linked together like a tight chain. From strange sounds in the sky, to changes in nature, to unusual lights in thick clouds, all of it flows together, pulling our thoughts beyond simple curiosity. When we put them side by side, the picture that comes out isn't just separate events anymore. It's a clear series of reminders. When we look at these events in the light of the Bible, the connection is hard to deny. Matthew 24:6-7 warned long ago, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." Those words aren't meant to scare us. They're meant to wake us up to what's happening right in front of us. Revelation 3:20 keeps speaking like a gentle but unmistakable whisper. "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him." These signs aren't a final judgment that shuts the door on hope. They're a steady knocking, showing there's still time to open it if we're willing to listen. We're living in a time when being busy and doubtful can easily put our hearts to sleep. But everything shared here isn't about arguing who's right or wrong. It's a call to wake up inside. Wake up to look at ourselves again, turn away from the wrong paths we've taken, and find again that spiritual connection we've forgotten for too long. Joel 2:12 says it plainly, "Yet even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning." This isn't a message of hopelessness. It's the open way back, where hearts can be healed before every door closes for good. If these signs have touched something deep inside, we can pause for a moment, say a quiet prayer, or share our thoughts as a way of standing firm in faith. Every word spoken, every reflection written down, is a small but honest step on the journey back to the light. Spreading this message isn't about causing worry. It's so no one has to face the next signs alone. When we share, watch, and walk together, every message passed on carries the hope that someone is still listening. Finally, thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone who's come this far on the journey. May peace cover us and our families, so that even when the world out there is full of upheaval, our hearts still have a place to rest. And then, in that quiet, the question still hangs in the air. After all we've seen, where will the next sign lead humanity? Amen.
Green, there's that flag you were talking about being burned here. What kind of things are they shouting, the crowd that's out there?
What's really unfolding in these early days of 2026, when the world hasn't even had a chance to catch its breath before getting pulled into a spiral with no way out. In just a short time, prayers ring out in the heart of America's capital. The Patagonia forests burn fiercely. Strange shapes appear in the sky. Holy statues rise up from the ground. Lake surfaces crack open. Streets sink into riots. Tornadoes roar like trumpets. The sun swells up unusually big. Fire whirlwinds stand tall in the desert, and glowing clouds drop so low it's hard to breathe. Do you feel that fear spreading as these events stop standing alone and start pushing against each other like a chain reaction? Those 10 signs aren't making noise on their own anymore. They're piling on top of one another, squeezing the present and making the future look dark and uncertain. But this is only the opening part of a picture that's slowly coming into view. Keep scrolling down to see more clearly what's being laid out ahead. And if you still hold a hope for peace in your heart, leave a prayer below for this shaking world. Now, let's get started right away with the first event. Trump organizes a massive prayer event for believers to pray for peace in America in 2026. Night settled over the National Mall in an unusual quiet, where the lights weren't just for illumination anymore, but to hold onto that solemn feeling. Under the shadow of the Lincoln Memorial, long rows of people knelt down, their hymns rising slowly, blending into the cold, early year wind like an old ritual waking up in modern times. In that moment, you could really feel a rare kind of calm when the worries of the day stepped aside for a deep hope of being protected. The America Prays event, held right in the heart of Washington, D.C., stood out not just for its size, but for how it brought strangers together in the same rhythm. Major religious groups were there side by side, rows of American flags standing still in the breeze. And on stage, Donald Trump appeared with a call to turn to Jesus as a spiritual anchor, not shouting, not declaring, just stressing the need for unity and faith. Laser lights drew across almost 500 feet long across the night sky, creating a sacred feeling that hushed the crowd before they all joined in song. In that space, the Bible came up gently, more as a suggestion than a firm point. Matthew 18:20 says, "For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them." Those words echoed not to explain the event, but to light up what was happening. A strength coming not from one person, but from people united in the same belief. As the shared emotion built, the faces turned toward the stage no longer showed differences in politics or background. There was just the sense of standing together in a big spiritual circle. Joel 2:28 was mentioned again, like a whisper through the crowd. "And afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy." The scripture felt like a bridge here, hinting that shared faith could offer comfort in uncertain times. It all ended in a heavy silence, with nobody rushing to leave, as if waiting for some sign that hadn't come yet. That prayer gathering hung between hope and worry, like a lighthouse shining in rough seas, but no one could be sure if the ship would reach safe harbor. That quiet pause opens the door to the rest of the story, where each next event will slowly answer whether the light that just flared up is the start of a revival or just a quick flash before a bigger storm. Blazing fires in Patagonia's forests can't be put out because of environmental cuts. The fire started without warning, swallowing up the old-growth forests of Patagonia, like the ground itself opened up and spat out hell. Thick black smoke rose straight into the sky, blocking out the sun for miles around and turning daytime into a long, eerie dusk. The crackling pops of dry trees burning mixed with desperate cries for help from isolated communities. The scale of this disaster is overwhelming, turning personal fear into something everyone shares. According to reports from mainstream news sites, more than 700 people in Argentina's Patagonia region had to be evacuated in a hurry, and at least 20 homes were burned down in a short time. The fires have spread over thousands of acres, while local firefighting teams are badly short on people and equipment after environmental budgets were cut by 81% recently. Looking at those cold numbers, it's hard not to feel like this isn't just an accident. It's the result of choices made over many years. Environmental experts say cutting back on forest protection funds and fire prevention spending has left Patagonia's ecosystems extremely vulnerable. Strong winds blowing through dry valleys turned the flames into walls nearly 100 feet high. Wild animals panicked and fled, leaving behind bare forests and air thick with poisonous smoke. Amos 4-7 once wrote, "I withheld rain from one city while I made it rain on another." And those words ring out like an accusation, pointing to the imbalance people have caused and the disaster now pouring down. In deeper analyses, scientists warn that the damage won't stop with what's burning right now. Burned forest land will lose its ability to hold water, raising the risk of flash floods in the coming rainy seasons and disrupting the livelihoods of thousands of families who depend on the forests. Revelation 8-7 describes, "The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood hurled down on the earth," and that image doesn't feel far off anymore, as fire and smoke have become familiar signs of a planet pushed to its limits. Skeptics call this disaster a natural event that's hard to avoid, but the data on budget cuts, weakened environmental protections, and slow responses paint a different picture. The Patagonia fires are like a warning written in smoke and ash, reminding us that every decision today leaves lasting marks on the land and climate. And with the first flames not even out yet, the big question hanging in the air is whether this is just a local tragedy or the spark for a wider wave of destruction across South America. Those mysterious eyes in the sky. The sky suddenly tore open like a thin curtain, revealing a shape that stopped people in their tracks. The layers of clouds formed a huge eye, wide open and still, hanging right overhead. The first feeling wasn't fear, but a breathtaking wonder, like something hidden had just been uncovered. Have you ever wondered, if the sky could look down on us, what it would see? This sight didn't show up in just one place. From the cold lands of Northern Europe to the misty valleys of Wales, social media was flooded with similar videos, spreading fast like wildfire. Pink and blue colors glowed around the pupil, forming a perfect ring of light that was hard to believe. The timing and shape being so similar made many folks feel it was more than just chance. From the videos shared, the eye was miles across, stayed put for a few minutes, then vanished all at once, as if it had never been there. No official word from experts, just quiet comments from viewers describing the sense of being watched from above. In that moment, the uncertainty turned into a chill, because no one knew for sure what they'd just seen. Psalm 34-15 says, "The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry." Those old words suddenly rang out in today's world, like a key unlocking some deeper meaning. When the shape in the sky looked like such a perfect eye, a lot of people stopped seeing it as just a trick of the clouds. Debates exploded all over online forums. Some believe it's a holy sign, a stern gaze piercing through the world, reminding us of things we're trying to hide. Others push back, saying it's just a light effect in the atmosphere, rare, but still natural. The two sides clash hard, with neither backing down. Revelation 1-7 says, "Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him." For many, that verse isn't some distant symbol anymore. It feels like it's happening right in front of them. They think that gaze in the sky isn't there to enjoy the view, but to watch what's going on down here. Between belief and doubt, one thing still hangs in the air. That feeling of being watched hasn't gone away. If those eyes really appeared as a reminder, what's coming next? And what do you think? Is it just random clouds? Or a quiet gaze counting down the time we have left? Archaeologists uncover the upper body of a giant statue of Jesus. The excavation started quietly, no fanfare, no hint of what was coming. Layer by layer, the dirt and rock were peeled away until a familiar shape slowly emerged, solemn and slow. The air grew heavy, as if the past was speaking for itself. Sometimes silence says more than any words ever could. From deep in the ground came the upper part of a huge statue, arms spread wide. The stone eyes looked down, not angry, not blaming, just carrying a quiet sadness that's hard to name. Anyone standing there couldn't help but pause a little longer, feeling something deeper than ordinary archaeology. Do you ever get that gentle but deep touch in moments like this? In Encantado, Brazil, the statue, about 140 feet tall, was lifted from the earth after being buried for so long. Its arm span is close to 92 feet, and as the stone was cleaned, every detail came back clear, shining like it had just been carved. Lately, social media has been sharing a story. This statue reminds people of sacred figures that have appeared in different places around the world, like pieces of a memory that never really went away. When people look into those thoughtful eyes, many say they feel a slow wave of reflection. Not fear, just a quiet questioning, like being invited to look at themselves. How can a stone gaze feel so moving? And why does this image show up right now? Isaiah 53:3 adds a deeper layer. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering. The verse feels like a gentle suggestion, nothing forced. That sadness in the stone eyes suddenly looks like forgotten love, understanding that's quiet but lasting. Once placed in the church, the statue is more than an old relic. It stands there silently, arms open but not grasping, as if waiting for people to come on their own. Have you ever wondered why open arms can comfort you and still leave a soft ache in your heart? John 3:16 closes with a lingering echo. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. The love spoken of isn't loud. It comes with sacrifice and pain. Maybe that's why the statue isn't complete yet, still unfinished, like an open question left for all of us. If one day the rest of the statue is found, what will be finished first? The stone figure, or the awakening in the hearts of those looking up? The ground under the lake bottom suddenly heaved up and split open. The calm water surface suddenly shook like someone was pounding hard from below, and in just a moment, the earth and rocks swelled up, ripping the lake surface into long, twisting, dark streaks. That sight left many people stunned, because it didn't look like any familiar disaster they'd seen before. Have you ever imagined that something that seems completely still under your feet could suddenly rise up like that? At Great Salt Lake in Utah, mounds covered in reeds suddenly rose above the water, along with murky streams bursting out from underground springs below. Many areas saw the ground push up about 10 feet, with cracks stretching for miles like fresh scars across the lake's body. The air felt heavy, because every cracking sound gave the feeling that something was trying to break free. People standing near the lake said the water didn't just pull apart, it swirled a bit, like it was being sucked down and then pushed back up. The cracks spread fast, cutting through areas that seemed solid, creating a scene that was both chaotic and puzzling. At times, the whole movement seemed out of step with the normal rhythm we're used to. Revelation 6:12 comes across like a chilling warning. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth. When those words come to mind, the ground shaking no longer feels like just a change in the land. It seems like a roar that's been held in too long, now forced out through the breaking. Videos spreading online show similar cracks that appeared in Colorado and Michigan, making many people think of a connected chain of underground movements. Plenty of folks say it's just geological changes, but the strange shapes and how fast they spread raise big questions about that view. Which side do you lean toward when you see those images? Joel 2:10 adds to the uneasy feeling. The earth shakes before him, the heavens tremble. This Bible verse leads many to believe the earth isn't just reacting physically, it's sending a serious message. The ground heaving up like it can't take any more, and each crack a reminder that limits have been reached. On forums, arguments flare up fiercely. Some say it's a rare event, but still within natural laws. Others believe it's the start of a bigger collapse. The debates clash without mercy. Because fear always brings belief and doubt side by side. Where do you think the line is between explanation and warning in a moment like this? If those cracks keep spreading, will they stay just at the lake bottom or go farther, reaching the very ground we stand on every day? American flag burned in Minneapolis to protest ICE's wrong actions. The streets of Minneapolis turned chaotic as loud chants echoed, sirens wailed, and people rushed around, creating a scene that felt tense and overwhelming. In the thick smoke, flames shot up from an angry crowd, making the heavy air even more strained. Can you picture that moment when order and anger clash head-on like that? It all started at East 34th Street and Portland Avenue, where thousands gathered after ICE shot Renee Nicole Good. Things quickly went from tense to confrontational, with shouts mixing with the sound of breaking glass, spreading a sense of disorder. News reports say the protests heated up when an American flag about 20 feet tall was set on fire, thick black smoke covering the intersection, forcing police to set up barriers. News reports say authorities brought in more crowd control units while protesters kept pushing toward main roads. Photos show the crowd looking both mad and confused, some watching from the sidelines, others facing off directly. The constant movement of people put the downtown area on high alert, with traffic jammed for hours. Matthew 24:10 comes across like a stark warning about today's reality. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. When you put this Bible verse next to scenes of a flag burning and opposing groups clashing, it makes the cracks in our community stand out more. What do you see when those images spread all over social media? Meanwhile, Romans 13:1 talks about order and authority. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities. This contrast has a lot of folks wondering about the line between standing up and following rules, between feeling injustice and keeping things stable. Plenty of people say violence just deepens divisions, while others see it as a cry of desperation. The debates that followed were heated but mostly measured. One side sees it as the result of long-building political and social tensions. The other believes the spread and the burning of that symbol point to something bigger than a regular protest. Which explanation makes more sense to you as these events keep unfolding? If the fires in the streets are just the beginning, the big question left is whether they'll die out soon or keep smoldering, testing the ties that hold America together in the days ahead. Mysterious, twisting tornadoes from giant trumpet-like clouds. The sky suddenly darkened with heavy gray clouds, massive swirling masses hanging low and thick, almost suffocating, making everything feel overwhelming, like the air itself was closing in. From the center of those dark clouds, tall wind columns dropped straight down to the ground, one after another, both majestic and frightening, giving the sense we were watching something beyond the usual rules of nature. No loud bangs, no bright lightning, just a quiet but powerful presence that made your heart beat faster. As it went on, there weren't just one or two of these twisting columns. More appeared, standing side by side like huge trumpets pointing straight from the sky to the earth. They spun fiercely, wide and flared at the top, narrowing as they touched the ground, creating a rare sight that made many people think of a signal being sounded from high above. The wind howled, the ground shook, and it all happened so fast, like one warning after another, with no time to catch your breath. Revelation 8:6 says, "The 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets got ready to blow them." That image, next to these twisting columns appearing together and shaped like trumpets, makes a lot of folks pause and think about the eerie connection. Old symbols seem to be playing out in today's skies, like a message laid out again for everyone to see. Psalm 107:25 goes on like an explanation of that power. For he commanded and raised the stormy wind, which lifted up the waves of the sea. To believers, these twisting columns aren't just air moving around. They're a response, where nature becomes a way to send a message beyond human words. Each swirl reminds us that wind and storms have never been purely random. From a scientific view, weather experts say this is a multi-vortex event, happening when unstable conditions in the atmosphere cause several wind cores to form at once. Differences in temperature, humidity, and wind speed create those flared columns, sometimes reaching speeds up to 165 miles per hour, strong enough to destroy anything in their path. To them, it's an extreme but explainable part of how the atmosphere works. Two viewpoints, one seeing it as physical laws, the other as a symbolic warning, leave you in the middle. not sure which to choose. When you're caught between them, which side do you lean toward? Seeing those wind columns as just harsh weather, or as a message sent through the language of the sky? No matter how you look at it, the way these twisting columns appeared all at once, with their unusual shape, is a strong reminder that we don't control everything. If this is just the beginning, what might come next after those trumpets have sounded in the air? The sun suddenly looked brighter and bigger, with a strange halo around it. The daytime sky suddenly turned unusual when the sun appeared larger than normal, with light so intense that it left many people stunned and worried. The rings of light around it weren't faint anymore but spread out wide, giving the feeling that something was getting closer to Earth. In that scene, all sorts of questions popped up in people's minds, because what was happening didn't look like any ordinary midday sky we'd ever remembered. As the light got stronger, the whole atmosphere shifted to something both amazing and scary, like nature was opening a door that folks weren't ready to walk through. The sun wasn't just glaring more, it felt like it was swelling up, with a bright halo stretching for miles, causing glare and temporary blindness in many areas. In that moment, we really felt how fragile we are, compared to a source of power that's always seemed so familiar. Matthew 24:29 once said, "The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light." Those words echoed like a haunting contrast, because instead of fading, the sun was getting way too bright, way too close, as if setting the stage for some kind of reversal that hasn't been fully told. Old images from the past suddenly took on a whole new meaning under this light, leaving many unable to stay indifferent. As the phenomenon kept going, a vague unease spread through the watching community, where the line between wonder and danger felt thin. The halo was perfectly round and unusually sharp, making the sky look more like a surreal painting than a natural view. In those seconds, you might feel time slowing down, with every ray carrying a weight that's hard to describe. Revelation 16:8 records, "The fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and the sun was allowed to scorch people with fire." Those words came across like a direct warning, putting that blazing light in the context of judgment and limits. No longer just a gentle source of life, the sun in the Bible takes on the role of a tool to test humanity. Online, opinions quickly split. Some saw it as a spiritual sign. Others tried to find a more familiar explanation for what was happening. No official answer came out at the time, just a flood of photos, videos, and waves of anxiety passing from one to the next. It was the lack of a clear explanation that made the unease grow even thicker. No matter how you look at it, that moment when the sun turned strange left a mark that's hard to forget in our shared memory. If this light was just the opening act, what might happen as it keeps changing in the days ahead? A strange fire tornado in the desert. The quiet desert suddenly turned into a wild scene when fire burst up from the ground, twisting straight up like a living pillar. Red sand got thrown everywhere. The air shook from the intense heat and howling wind, making you feel dizzy as if the line between earth and sky was being ripped apart. It all happened so fast you couldn't even catch your breath, leaving behind a sight that was both destructive and captivating. As the flames settled into shape, they no longer spread wildly but formed a bright red whirlwind, towering high in the sky. The rings of fire wrapped tightly around each other, spinning fiercely, pulling in sand and dust into its scorching core like it was swallowing the whole desert. In that moment, you really feel how small we are in front of something that looks like hell on earth. Revelation 9:2 once described, "He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke like the smoke of a great furnace." The image of smoke and fire pouring up from deep in the ground makes those Bible words echo like a judgment being announced, where fire isn't just a natural thing anymore but a sign of reckoning. That burning feeling doesn't just destroy things, it stirs up real fear in anyone watching. Ezekiel 1-4 goes on to paint the picture stronger. "I looked, and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light." When you put those words next to this swirling fire tornado, it doesn't feel like some distant metaphor anymore, but like it's happening right in front of you. The flames become a final warning, reminding us there are limits you can't cross without paying a price. In the middle of that blazing sight, it's easy to get caught up in a mix of fear and curiosity, because the deadly beauty of that pillar of fire has a pull that's hard to resist. While watching, time seems to freeze, and every twist of the flames burns deep into your memory. It's that contrast between terror and wonder that makes this kind of thing spread so fast. From a scientific view, researchers explain that fire tornadoes form when super hot air from a blaze rises quickly, creating a low-pressure area that sucks in cooler air around it, starting the spinning motion. According to physics, differences in temperature and wind speed can make the fire column reach about 100 feet high, with spinning winds up to 100 miles per hour. This shows how nature follows strict rules, even when the results look beyond normal imagination. Even with explanations from formulas and models, the fire tornado still leaves a big question hanging about its deeper meaning. If these flames have only shown up now and then in remote deserts, what will happen if they aren't confined to those far-off places anymore? Pure white clouds lowering close to the ground, with green and red aurora lights. From the northern horizon, a big mass of white clouds slowly drifted down lower, with thin green and red lights like silk threads wrapping around it. It was so beautiful that it made you breathe a little slower. That moment didn't shock you. It left a quiet kind of wonder, like seeing something familiar suddenly look different. Do you feel that strange peace when that light touches the air? This was spotted in Alaska and parts of Northern America, where videos spread on Facebook and Instagram showing pure white bands of light coming down, stretching for miles, floating close to the ground. Some reports on MSN describe the light pillars as light beams cutting through the clouds, making everything unusually still. No loud rumble, no crash, just the slow presence of the light. Revelation 21:1 comes to mind like a gentle whisper. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Those words don't push or scare. They just open up the idea of renewal, where heavy things get set down. The white clouds remind you of a different kind of order, one that doesn't destroy, but purifies. The white clouds came down so low, it felt like you could reach out and touch them, with the aurora lights sparkling thin, and even not fierce and bright, but clear and calm. The space around grew quiet, the rough edges of rocks and land softened by that gentle glow. That purity didn't come from being intense, it came from the stillness. Psalm 104:3 is mentioned as a vivid touch. He makes the clouds his chariot and rides on the wings of the wind. That picture puts us in our small place, not to make us feel low, but to let us truly admire. Clouds aren't just water vapor anymore. They become the way for holy movement, light, and lasting. The science side calls this the result of a geomagnetic storm, charged particles hitting the atmosphere and creating white auroras. That explanation is clear and makes sense, but it doesn't cancel out the feeling of purity spreading. When the light doesn't scare or burn but calms things down, you wonder if there's something beyond the formulas. That mass of white clouds feels like a sign reminding us that a new beginning isn't always loud. Sometimes it shows up quietly to invite change from the inside. And as the green and red lights fade into the night, the question lingers. Is it a door opening or the last reflection before darkness tests our faith? 10 phenomena have come one after another, like different slices of the same big picture, from snow and ice showing up where they don't belong, to restless seas and skies turning strange colors, all the way to fire, wind, and lights hanging low near the ground. When you put them side by side, they're no longer just separate moments. They become one continuous flow, where nature seems to be speaking in many voices at once. What we've seen doesn't stand alone. It all fits into one shared rhythm of warning and getting ready. Matthew 24:7 hangs over it all like a backdrop. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. Those words aren't meant to scare us. They're meant to put everything that's happening into an order that was already spoken about long ago. The signs in the earth, water, fire, and sky are like markers reminding us that history isn't just drifting along without purpose. As we step into this new year, the fast-moving events show that a time of big upheaval is opening up. Not every change looks like destruction, but they all make us stop and look deeper. Revelation 6-8 brings that feeling to mind. I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death. They were given power over a fourth of the earth. It's a picture of judgment, but also a reminder of human limits. In all of this, the message isn't about trying to guess the day or hour. It's about the attitude of our hearts. The signs don't ask for arguments. They invite quiet thought. Amos 4:12 once said, "Prepare to meet your God, O Israel." That preparation starts inside, where each of us asks ourselves where we stand in the middle of all these changes. If what you've just seen touches a thought or a quiet whisper in your heart, let it come out. A short prayer or an honest feeling left in the comments below can become a thread connecting hearts that are all searching for the same peace. We're not alone when we share our faith and our concerns together. So you don't miss the next messages, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Every little action helps keep the light from getting lost in all the noise. 1 Corinthians 16:14 reminds us, "Let all that you do be done in love." Finally, thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone who's listened all the way to the end. May peace cover you and your family, so that even when unrest is spreading, your heart stays anchored in hope. Numbers 6:26 closes with this blessing. "The Lord turns his face toward you and gives you peace." Amen.
News special report. I'm Carissa Lawson. Pasadena, California, where they are still cleaning up the mud.
Do you hear something crashing down from the sky in 2026? It all kicked off so fast and so fierce. Time felt squeezed in those first days of the year. One disaster after another hit hard, giving folks no chance to catch their breath. Huge, unusual waves roared off the coast of Hawaii. A massive fire broke out and swallowed the Yongkang industrial area in Taiwan. Mountains in Kashmir cracked and came crashing down onto the highway. The Quadrantids meteor shower lit up the night sky with blazing fireballs. California got buried under floods. Roads turned into rushing rivers. People paddled canoes right through chaotic city streets. Fish got swept onto dry land, and cries of despair echoed everywhere. Do you feel that terrifying rhythm? Before we dive deeper with me into the real truth behind these early year disasters, please leave a heartfelt prayer in the comments below so we can turn to God together right now. Now, are you ready to move on to the next part? Because behind this chain of events, there are still some dark corners that haven't come to light yet. Let's get started right away with the first event. Giant waves suddenly hit Hawaii. Hawaii started 2026 with a heavy sense of worry. The calm, early days of January were completely shattered. We hadn't even gotten used to the new year when nature struck hard. Familiar beaches suddenly faced unusually high water levels. Tourists and locals were left confused and scared. All you and I could do was watch the emergency news alerts popping up one after another on our screens. In Marin County and the Bay Area of California, king tides, mixed with heavy rain, caused total chaos that no one could control. Seawater flooded inland, rising into neighborhoods along the Pacific coast. In Corte Madera, Highway 101 was submerged and turned into what looked like a new river. Traffic ground to a halt. Police blocked off many roads. Large areas were put under full emergency status. Waves tens of feet high kept pounding Hawaii's beaches, crashing onto the sand like giant walls of water. They swept away lounge chairs, umbrellas, cars, and anything loose. Crowds ran in panic amid terrified screams. Salty spray filled the air like fog. Videos showed the ocean roaring in a way we'd never seen, making it feel like the world was being overwhelmed by chaos right in front of us. Scientists explain that these extreme tides happen every year, but the strength at the start of 2026 went way beyond normal. The mix of climate change, off-season storms, and coastal shapes made the damage worse. This is a clear warning for everyone to get ready for future waves that could be even stronger and more unpredictable. If we keep ignoring these signs, our future will only grow more unstable and fragile. In the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verses 37 to 39, it's written in a haunting way. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. Again, in Luke chapter 21, verse 25, it's a strong reminder. On the earth, Nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. And in Genesis, chapter 7, verses 11 to 12, the old story comes back like a scary memory. All the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Looking at what's happening now, 2026 really feels closer than ever to the end times. The heavens and the oceans seem to be sending urgent messages all at once, urging us to stay alert as time rushes by faster. Right now, you can join us in turning to God with a sincere prayer in the comments below to spread faith during these troubled days. But Hawaii is just the beginning. The waters have calmed a little, but then more news explodes from far away. Plenty more intense things are waiting ahead. Let's look toward Taiwan, where another disaster is unfolding with blazing fires and thick black smoke. The chain of terrifying events hasn't stopped yet. The terrible fire in Yongkang Industrial Area, Tainan, Taiwan. 2026 had just started when a shocking piece of bad news hit from Asia. We were all waking up to the new year with some hope. But right around noon on January 4, news agencies sent out urgent alerts about a fierce blaze like nothing before in Yongkang District, Tainan City, Taiwan. It spread so fast it caught everyone off guard, and folks like you and me could only grip our phones tight following those breathless updates. The fire kicked off around 12:30 inches the afternoon from an abandoned factory near the Yongkang interchange, then quickly jumped to piles of scrap materials nearby. Strong winds pushed the flames along like a roaring red storm. Tainan's fire department rushed more than 20 trucks and hundreds of firefighters to battle it. Thick black smoke billowed hundreds of feet into the sky, covering miles around, and traffic turned to total chaos as roads in and out of the industrial zone got blocked off in a hurry. The updates on injuries kept coming in, and it really tugged at the heart. Early reports said at least 3 security guards near the scene got bad burns. 2 others had to rush to the hospital for smoke inhalation. Total damage is guessed over $15 million, with nearby factories scorched. Thousands of square feet of warehouses burned to the ground. Families around Tainan were scared as toxic smoke drifted into residential areas. Those poor victims could only sob in the middle of all that ruin. And you know, in a tragedy like this, none of us can stay on the sidelines without feeling for them. Experts on the environment are still digging into it, pointing to loose rules on handling hazardous waste, unusually dry hot weather, and maybe even high tides early in the year raising the fire risk. It's an urgent wake-up call for everyone to think harder about how we treat nature and industry. Because if we keep taking chances, disasters like this could happen anywhere in 2026, making the days ahead feel even more fragile than ever. While the smoke and flames hadn't fully cleared, the Bible comes to mind like a solemn reminder for our times. In the book of Zephaniah, chapter 1, verse 18, it says, "Neither their silver nor their gold will be able to save them on the day of the Lord's wrath. In the fire of his jealousy, the whole earth will be consumed." Those words hit hard and chilling, like stamping a seal on the chaos you and I just watched, reminding us that all our material things mean nothing when judgment comes. From what's happened and still unfolding, 2026 feels like it's drawing closer to the end times. These awful signs aren't isolated anymore. They're piling up fast. The event in Yongkang District is just one link in a bigger chain, and this part ends on a real spine-chilling note because the fire might calm down in Taiwan, but soon after, the ground started shaking far away. Look over to India, where mountains are cracking and another disaster is waiting up ahead. Terrifying landslide in Kashmir, India. The mountains of Kashmir have stood there for thousands of years, quiet and steady, never moving an inch, until that sudden moment when the ground roared and all the calm got ripped apart in a flash. No warning at all, no familiar signs, just that chill down your spine when nature suddenly shows its scary power. On January 2, 2026, in Baramulla in Jammu and Kashmir, a huge section of mountain came crashing down onto the road to Srinagar. Rocks and dirt poured down like a waterfall, smashing the pavement and blocking traffic right away. Those massive boulders, tons heavy, came tumbling at terrifying speed, leaving behind a thick cloud of dust that covered the sky and turned midday into a choking gray haze. Matthew 24, verse 7 once warned, "There will be earthquakes in many places." Those words hit hard amid the sight of mountains shifting, as if the earth won't stay still under our feet anymore. The sound of rocks crashing against each other echoed through the valley, bouncing off the cliffs like non-stop thunder. Many drivers panicked, left their cars behind, and ran in all directions to find cover as more big rocks kept falling. The hillside got gouged deep, full of jagged cracks, looking like a body that's just been torn open, showing its raw and frightening core. Revelation 6 verse 14 says it plain. Every mountain and island was moved from its place. Seeing the wrecked slopes in Kashmir, those words don't feel like symbols anymore. They're right there in the rocks, dust, and chaos in front of you. People who saw it say the ground shook a little just before the slide, like the earth's heavy breath. In that moment, you really get how small we are compared to the power working under that seemingly solid ground. In 1 second, all your plans, trips, and overconfidence get buried. Nahum 1 verse 5 says, "The mountains quake before him, and the hills melt." Those words echo through time, casting a holy shadow over the disaster that just happened. Scientists later explained that heavy rain for days, along with construction work, had seriously weakened the soil and rocks. Local authorities quickly closed off the area, sent out urgent warnings, and told folks to stay away from the slopes and get ready for more slides that could happen anytime. But even with science giving the reasons, that uneasy feeling doesn't go away. The mountain just stopped falling. The dirt hasn't settled yet, and already the sky is showing some strange signs. And somewhere out there, mysterious lights are being seen dropping from the sky, blazing fireballs in the night sky. In the late-night news early in January 2026, the skies over South America weren't lit up by shooting stars, but by deadly streaks of fire that looked like military missiles. From the Caribbean Sea all the way to the cities in northern Venezuela, one fireball after another came hurtling down at terrifying speeds, leaving behind explosions that shook the ground. It all hit so suddenly, like a bad dream you can't wake up from. Can you believe the world has stepped right up to the edge of real war? Around 9:15 p.m. on January 5th, 2026, the U.S. military launched a big airstrike operation against targets in Caracas and the port area of La Guaira. According to the official word, more than 70 cruise missiles were fired off in just the first hour. But what people saw in the live videos was even more intense than any report. One missile after another lit up bright as it tore through the clouds, exploding like man-made thunder and turning the dark night into a string of non-stop flashes. Early reports from local officials said at least 215 people were killed, more than 900 injured, and many neighborhoods near Maiquetía Airport were badly destroyed. The national power grid went haywire, hospitals were overwhelmed, and traffic came to a standstill. Damage to buildings and roads was already over $1.2 billion after just 2 days of fighting. Pictures of families hugging and crying in the rubble really tug at your heart. Matthew 24:6 says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place." Those Bible words ring out like a warning bell amid the fires in Venezuela, reminding us that we can't escape the results of pride and hate. The videos kept showing thick black smoke, rising thousands of feet, covering the capital like a blanket of mourning. In the Aragua industrial area, a bunch of chemical plants exploded one after another, creating huge columns of fire you could see from dozens of miles away. Folks there were told to take shelter right away, and tens of thousands fled in panic toward the Colombia border. Revelation 8:7 warns, "Fire mixed with blood was thrown down to the earth. A third of the earth was burned up." With missiles falling like rain, those words feel like a charge against a world that's lighting its own fuse for Judgment Day. Online around the world, arguments exploded. Some folks supported the military action for political reasons. Others called it way beyond any moral line. Prayer groups online called for peace and mercy. Where do you stand in all these clashing views? In Washington, the Pentagon put out its highest security alert, saying the conflict could spread across the region. In Caracas, sirens kept blaring every hour. Churches opened up for people seeking shelter, and pastors urged everyone to turn to spiritual protection. Isaiah 2:19 reminds us, "People will flee to caves in the rocks from the terror of the Lord." A lot of folks believe those words are coming true right in our time. The missiles keep falling, and the world keeps shaking with every news update. The fires of war in Venezuela aren't out yet, but out east, the seas are stirring up strange waves. This story isn't over. Cars submerged in California flooding, Those pictures from California at the start of 2026 hit your screen and just tug at your heart. The cold, fierce water rose so high it was hard to believe, turning parking lots, streets, and quiet neighborhoods into a maze of murky gray. You could really feel how small